For years, the Prince and Princess of Wales seemed to have found their perfect balance between royal duty and private family life, tucked away in the modest charm of Adelaide Cottage. It was small by royal standards, but it suited them. 4 bedrooms, just enough to house the heirs to the throne and to give Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis the closest thing to a normal upbringing possible within the gilded cage of monarchy. Yet beneath the peaceful facade, something has been shifting. The walls of Adelaide, however charming, were closing in. And now, in a move that has left courtiers whispering and royal watchers stunned, William and Kate are reportedly preparing to uproot their young family and resettle in a place that carries one of the most controversial legacies in Windsor's history, Fort Belvedere. The decision is more than domestic. It is more than about comfort, space, or proximity to Windsor Castle. This is about symbolism, about history, about reclaiming a property forever tainted by the ghost of abdication and turning it into a modern family fortress. And in this transformation, we glimpse something far greater: William and Kate's blueprint for the monarchy of tomorrow. Fort Belvedere, with its striking Gothic Revival towers and sweeping grounds, is no ordinary royal residence. It is infamous as the very place where Edward VIII, the king who gave up his crown for love, signed his abdication in 1936, shaking the monarchy to its core. For decades since, the mansion has remained in the royal estate but stood at a curious remove, leased to friends of the crown, visited but never truly reabsorbed into the family's living heart. Its reputation was simply too heavy, its symbolism too dangerous. To move there now is not just about real estate, it is about rewriting history. But before we dive into the shadows of Fort Belvedere, let's pause on what this move says about William and Kate as parents. Adelaide Cottage was chosen precisely because it offered modesty, discretion, and privacy. They wanted their children walking to Lambrook School, playing in the garden without photographers at the gate, and living in a space where staff would not hover in corridors, where their home life could remain theirs alone. For 3 years it worked. George could ride his bike, Charlotte could practice tennis, Louis could explore. Yet, as one insider put it, they feel they've outgrown Adelaide. The children are older now, their worlds expanding. George at 11 is no longer a little boy but a future king in training. Charlotte at 10 already carries herself with a spark of independence and discipline that echoes her great-grandmother Elizabeth II. Louis, though younger, is bursting with energy that 4 cottage walls cannot contain. And here lies the heart of it. Fort Belvedere offers not just bedrooms, but landscapes. A private tennis court for Charlotte, who idolizes Wimbledon champions. A swimming pool for Louis, who loves the water. Vast stables for George, who has been encouraged to follow the Windsor equestrian tradition. The house itself is enormous: 8 bedrooms, 3 staff cottages, Venetian windows, a vaulted hallway ceiling that seems almost designed to echo with history. It is, in short, a stage not just for family life, but for a dynasty in the making. And yet, there is a darker undertone. Fort Belvedere has never been merely bricks and mortar. It has always carried the scent of scandal. It was at those very desks, in December 1936, that Edward VIII signed away his crown. His romance with Wallis Simpson became the most sensational crisis of the 20th century monarchy. The house became forever linked to the idea of betrayal, dereliction of duty, and the fragility of royal destiny. To step into Fort Belvedere now is to walk deliberately into the shadow of abdication and to declare, silently but unmistakably, we are not afraid of ghosts. Why would William and Kate risk such an association? Because they are in the business of transformation. Unlike Andrew, clinging bitterly to Royal Lodge, unlike Harry, retreating across the Atlantic, unlike even Charles, who has preserved Highgrove as his personal refuge, William and Kate are reshaping the geography of monarchy itself. Every move they make is strategic, aimed not at indulgence, but at crafting a narrative. Adelaide was the house of modesty and quiet beginnings. Fort Belvedere could be the house of ambition, renewal, and legacy. And make no mistake, there is competition. Royal Lodge, currently the embattled domain of Prince Andrew, was once rumored to be William's desired residence, but Andrew has refused to vacate, even under pressure, turning the sprawling 30-room mansion into a fortress of defiance. Kensington Palace apartments, with their history and grandeur, were considered too formal, too palace-like, too exposed for raising children. A wing at Windsor Castle itself was whispered about, but William and Kate rejected it. Too suffocating, too close to the machinery of monarchy. What they wanted was space, freedom, and symbolism. Fort Belvedere is all three. Critics, of course, will say, another house? How many estates does one couple need? After all, they still retain Anmer Hall in Norfolk, their beloved retreat where William once described walking the fields as peaceful. They have apartment 1A at Kensington Palace in London, a sprawling 20-room residence with nurseries, reception halls, and even a gym. They have Tamnagar in Scotland, a modest cottage near Balmoral gifted by the Queen Mother. They even have access to Llwynwermod in Wales, Charles's former farmhouse estate. To outside eyes, the list is staggering, yet each serves a different function. Norfolk for privacy, London for duty, Scotland for tradition, Wales for symbolism, Windsor for raising their children close to the monarch, and Fort Belvedere? Fort Belvedere could be their statement home, their forever home. Royal biographers suggest that William's eye on Fort Belvedere is not coincidental. For a future king who has often been haunted by the ghosts of his family's failures, Diana's tragic end, Edward III's abdication, Andrew's scandals, choosing to live in the House of Abdication could be his most defiant move yet. To reclaim it, to fill it with laughter, family, and the sounds of children's footsteps, would be to overwrite its dark legacy. Where once a king turned his back on the crown, another king-in-waiting would prepare himself and his heirs to embrace it. The property itself has already undergone restoration. In 2001, $1.5 million was spent to preserve its historic details: marble fireplaces, elaborate plaster cornices, original stonework, Venetian windows still open onto sweeping lawns. A walled rose garden blooms where Edward once brooded. Yet for all its grandeur, Fort Belvedere has remained largely unused, a ghostly jewel in the Windsor crown. Until now. Reports suggest William will fund the move and renovations personally, refusing public money. No live-in staff, just as at Adelaide. The family intends to keep its independence, to maintain the narrative that they are royals of the people, not relics of a distant Gilded Age. This is not extravagance, they will insist. It is continuity. It is preparation. And what of King Charles? The monarch, battling illness yet determined to preserve his vision of a slimmed-down monarchy, is said to have mixed feelings. On one hand, the symbolism of William and Kate re-inhabiting Fort Belvedere could be a powerful gesture of resilience. On the other, Charles is cautious of ghosts, wary of repeating history's mistakes. He has long preferred Highgrove and Sandringham, not Windsor's haunted mansions. But William is not Charles. His vision is different. He believes in confronting history head-on, not sidestepping it. Public reaction has been split. Some see extravagance, another grand estate added to an already dazzling portfolio. Others see strategy. As one commentator wrote, "Every house tells a story." And the story William and Kate are telling is that of a monarchy reborn, ready to confront its past and claim its future. Consider also the children. George, one-day king, will grow up in a house forever linked to abdication. The lesson will not be lost on him. Charlotte, destined perhaps never for the throne but for a life of duty, will find in its tennis courts and gardens a place to carve her own joys. Louis, the youngest, will know it as simply home, a home not of scandal but of family. What greater rebranding could there be? And so, the move to Fort Belvedere is not just about more space. It is about narrative warfare, about reclaiming ground once surrendered, about telling the world that the monarchy can survive scandal, can outgrow shame, can turn a place of weakness into a fortress of strength. For William and Kate, it is the boldest move yet. But with boldness comes risk. Fort Belvedere will always carry the whisper of Edward and Wallace, the ghost of abdication papers signed in trembling hand. To live there is to invite constant comparison, constant symbolism. The press will not let them forget it. Every photograph on the lawn, every family gathering, will be weighed against the memory of the king who left it all behind. William and Kate are betting that they can win that battle, that their image as the steady, dutiful, family-oriented face of monarchy will overpower the ghosts of the past. If they succeed, Fort Belvedere will no longer be the house of abdication. It will be the house of renewal. The house where the monarchy's future king and queen raised their heirs in confidence, not fear. The house where history was not erased, but redeemed. So, as the Wales family prepares for what may be the most consequential house move of their lives, one question remains. Will Fort Belvedere, once the symbol of royal collapse, now become the symbol of royal rebirth? Time and history will judge.